Good evening and welcome to KTN Prime. I'm Eric Latif.
And I'm Joy Doreen Bira.
And we're hurtling towards the elections. That's why we see Anne Kiguta here. How are we doing?
Well, apparently not so well. That's according to the Kenya National Dialogue and Reconciliation panel that is chaired by Kofi Annan. You know what they're saying tonight? The constitution, the new constitution is probably the only thing Kenya has gotten right as far as the reform process is. And now that that election date has been announced, as you can imagine, the international community are watching how Kenya handles the reform process very keenly.
You will be back to tell us more on that?
Absolutely.
Please don't be so negative when you come back.
I'll just say what the report says. That's all I'm going to do.
Well, thank you. You know, we are actually going towards elections, and there's now this whole debate of, is it going to be December? Is it going to be March 4th? Who is it going to be? Well, the story is coming up on KTN Prime.
Well, join us. But before that, we are going to take you through some of our major stories that we worked on for you this evening.
So in the event that the court concludes this matter on Thursday, that's it. In the event that that doesn't happen, we intend to call a stakeholders meeting next week.
Parliamentary committee joins in the storm over election date. Raila defends his objection to IEBC March election date. Police reforms slowing down Kenya's reform train.
I'm an innocent buyer for value of this property.
Ruto now says he will legally acquired IDP land. Good evening once again and welcome to KTN Prime. Now, as election date debate rages, the body that was at the forefront of ensuring that the new constitution is in place is saying that courts should provide the way forward on the matter. A constitution implementation Oversight Committee says should the courts not exhaustively put the whole discussion to rest, then all stakeholders should put their hands together to come up with a comprehensive date agreeable to all. CIOC also cautions on the reckless remarks on the date of the election, saying it may disrupt the whole process. KTN senior reporter Erin Ocheng begins our bulletin with the update on this story.
Many may have thought Saturday's IEBC election date announcement could have rested the anxiety in the country over the exact date the country would hold the next general election, but instead it set in a whole ball game altogether, with different sides expressing divergent views on the proposed March 4th date. Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee believes the whole debate culminates from a constitutional interpretative misunderstanding that the committee feels only the courts can provide the way forward.
So in the event that the court concludes this matter on Thursday, that's it. In the event that that doesn't happen, we intend to call a stakeholders meeting next week. And we'll alert you on the date so that we can have as many of the critical players as possible around this table.
The Abdikadir-led team that met this morning to discuss the election date fiasco, however, took issue with the way the discussion has been spinned, warning on the danger of polarizing the nation on the matter.
What we are more interested in as a committee is to ensure that those divergent views don't lead to a disruption of the process, don't lead to such conflict that the entire process itself is jeopardized.
Separately speaking, the Commission for the Implementation of the Constitution, CIC, appears to support the March 4th date announced by IEBC. The Commission says it is IEBC that is mandated under the Constitution to set the elections date, and it has done so within the parameters of the law.
It is the unequivocal view of CIC that IEBC, in terms of the judgment of the Constitutional Court, is the organ constitutionally mandated to set the election date.
CIC boss Charles Nyachai, however, says his commission, in giving its advisory, is more concerned by the constitution and legal issues that underlies the setting of the date, and not political interests and preferences surrounding the election date debate. Some parliamentarians argue that elections should be held after the expiry of their current term, 5 years after they were sworn in.
It is the Kenyan Gazette by the Electoral Commission chairman who declared that all the members of parliament, and they signed, have been duly elected on 30th of December. The story of January, all the lawyers will tell you, is fiction.
But on the other hand, the two principals have been called upon to provide guidelines on the impasse over the election date.
We appeal to the two principals in the spirit of nationhood to act like true statesmen and place the interest of Kenyans first by agreeing on a more suitable date for the first elections, which will guarantee the rule of law and respect for the Constitution.
The two principals have not met since Saturday's election date announcement by IEBC. Aaron Ocheng, KTN Prime.
Let's stay with this story. What's in a date? The Orange Democratic Movement Party is this evening coming under scrutiny for allegedly putting pressure on the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to announce an election date that's favorable to the party. A section of IEBC commissioners were caught on microphone today claiming that they were facing intimidation from the ODM for choosing the March 4th, 2013 as the election date. Here is KTN Samogina with more on this.
IEBC commissioners are on record alleging an ODM plot to pressurize the commission to rescind its decision of fixing the March 4th election date.
Thanks. Yeah.
And then he has told you what?
Over the cup.
No, the message he has just received.
From where? From no, kuna jaji chama nasoma. From where kina midiu watu wanasema watupige vita, watupige. Sasa sio, but that's what the PM told me. Yeah. Ule kama boardroom. Salamba tukupiga vita lakini ile tu.
When contacted, the Director of Communication in the Prime Minister's office, Dennis Onyango, denied the claims, stating that, and I quote, "I have not heard the PM say he will fight IEBC," end of quote. The Raila Odinga Secretariat sent a 9-point statement stating why the PM objected to holding election in March next year. The PM states that there is need for cooling off temperatures. But ODM MP and Minister for Immigration Otieno Kajwang is not sparing the electoral body.
We have to nip it in the bud. They must act lawfully, step by step, until we do the elections.
Game MP Jakoyo Midio, who has also been accused of putting IEBC under pressure, was not available for comment. The dispatch from the Raila Odinga Secretariat says that a March election will disrupt the school calendar and the farming season, with the political campaigns that could very well take the entire first half of 2013, which is not desirable.
And I can tell you that they have no power in law or in the Constitution to fix that date. And for that reason, we will insist that it doesn't have that power. Yeah, and that one will insist everywhere. And that insistence is legal and also political, and must be respected. We have a right to say what we have to say. But I think that the Electoral Commission should behave in a honorable manner.
ODM has put IEBC on the spot, claiming the chronology of events leading to the fixing of the election date point to President Kibaki arm-twisting the electoral body. ODM says the IEBC settled on the March 4th, 2013 date a few days after meeting with President Kibaki. Already, Prime Minister Raila Odinga has been censured by the Chief Justice Dr. William Tunga for rubbishing a High Court ruling on the election date for precipitating the ambiguity.
2002, 2007, hii mahakama ambaye naambia sisi ati kama uchaguzi ufanywe Disemba, ingine ifanywe March, hii ni mahakama aina gani? Mahakama bandia.
The court which ruled in March, it ruled that it would be held in March 2013. It said so. Na mimi siwezi nikaenda nikabadilisha, manake hii ni koti ilisema. Na kama mimi nikiwa ikiwa sipendi au ningependa, sina jambo kama hilo.
The controversy surrounding the elections date has sucked in top ODM leadership, although denying underhand schemes to undermine the electoral agency. Statements from IEBC alleging an ODM conspiracy deepens the acrimony surrounding the country's next general elections. Samogina, KTN, Nairobi.
So the president says is bound by the court ruling. The Prime Minister favors the December election tonight. Our big question we're asking is, do you think these two principles will actually meet, agree on an election date? Do you think they will meet and agree on an election date? Send us a yes or no comment to the number 8040. We'll be sampling some of them later in this bulletin and also give you the poll results at the end of this live newscast. Now, it's coming to about 5 years since the formation of the Grand Coalition government. And according to the Kofi Annan-led team, Kenya is doing well, but not so well. Here is Ann Kiguta with more.
Thanks, Eric. Indeed, you're absolutely right. According to the Kofi Annan-led panel of eminent persons, Kenya is yet to reform key institutions that are critical to securing peace and ensuring a problem-free transition after the next general election. Now, the latest Kenya National Dialogue and Reconciliation Report is warning that if not addressed in good time, gaps in reforming important institutions and taking brave decisions on other problematic issues will make the next election, now slated for the 4th of March in 2013, very difficult. Let's take a look first at the constitutional reforms. And according to the report, Kenya's largest success remains the enactment of a new constitution, which continues to enjoy popular support. The main challenge, however, remains the implementation. Forces that are opposed to this constitution during the referendum are still in place, and the report says that the coalition government lacks cohesion, and divisions both along party and ethnic lines are constraining the development and passage of legislation. Let's take a look now at institutional reforms. As far as the judiciary is concerned, KNDR says it has entrenched a culture of transparency in the conduct of its affairs, and as a result, public ratings of its performance have risen from 32% in December 2008 to 53% in December 2011. The open method of recruiting senior judicial officers and taking actions that demonstrate increased independence have boosted confidence. Let's take a look at the police now. But KNDR notes that police reforms are way off track, despite the fact that relevant laws have already been enacted. The appropriate vetting required is yet to be done. The KNDR report goes as far as to say police appear to be resisting change and are not keen to alter the status quo. It also in focus is how the Inspector General of Police will be identified for recruitment and how the process of recruitment will be conducted. And that will be a major test for the future credibility of the police force. Other reforms that are yet to be seen are those on legislation, laws that will institutionalize the face of the nation in the composition of the public service. Ethnic inequalities in the public sector remain an issue of concern, as shown in the studies auditing the diversity of the civil service. The Annan team says such legislation should be in place way before the enactment of county governments in order to prevent imbalances similar to those that already witnessed in the civil service. Let's move finally now to other reforms. Well, with regard to land reforms, the review notes that the National Land Commission is not yet in place and that relevant actors remain oblivious to the urgency of having this commission in place. Also, the failure to settle all internally displaced persons exemplifies the challenges facing implementation of land reforms. And finally, the report points to the challenges in addressing youth unemployment. KNDR had made recommendations that efforts be made to generate an average of 740,000 new jobs each year from 2008. That indeed is very ambitious. Now, the first efforts to do so comprise the short-term intervention measures under the Kazi kwa Vijana scheme, which, as you well know, has since been riddled with allegations of corruption. Well, so much for that report. Just before I leave you, let me bring you some other bit of news. And Eldoret North Member of Parliament William Ruto now wants Adrian Muteshi's claims that he was forcefully evicted from his 100-acre farm in Uasin Gishu during the 2007-2008 post-election violence investigated by the CID. The Eldoret North Member of Parliament has come out to publicly deny acquiring the land illegally, insisting that he bought the land from a Dorothy Yator in late 2008. The transaction, Ruto says, had absolutely nothing to do with post-poll chaos, and the Eldoret North legislator is now daring Muteshi to be a witness in court and attest to his eviction claims.
I'm all alone.
In a bid to salvage a potentially damaging legal and political situation, Eldoret North Member of Parliament William Ruto has come out to publicly deny claims that he evicted Adrian Muteshi from his 100-acre farm during the post-election violence in 2007-2008.
Mr. Muteshi looks like he has no intention of withdrawing those comments. And therefore, this morning, I have written to the Director of Criminal Investigations to investigate if indeed Mr. Muteshi was evicted.
According to Ruto, the 100-acre piece of land of Kata Bay settlement scheme in Uasin Gishu lay barren for several years before he took possession of it. The legislator claims that he innocently bought the piece of land from a Dorothy Yator, who had had the land in her possession since 1980.
Dorothy Yator, who I'm informed is spouse of an officer at the Ministry of Lands.
Yator is said to have legally transferred the 100-acre piece of land to William Ruto in late 2008, only for the Ministry of Lands to raise alarm over the transaction earlier this year.
I instructed my lawyers to surrender the land, and I have subsequently instructed my farm manager to remove any property on that farm that belongs to me, including the fence that I put up.
However, Muteshi claims that he applied to the Ministry of Lands in the 1960s to buy the land off a white settler. After completing his payments, he was later given a title deed for the property in 1989. And the property has been in his possession until 2008. Initially, Ruto had agreed to an out-of-court settlement. Perhaps one of the major reasons for this decision was because the International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor may have taken some interest in the case, especially since Muteshi claims the land was forcefully taken from him by the legislator during the post-election violence, adding that his workers were evicted from the same.
We want Mr. Muteshi and his workers to go and make formal statements on when they were evicted, and by who, and whether at all they know whether I was involved.
But William Ruto's request may be a difficult one to grant. According to Muteshi, no one in Eldoret is willing to testify against the Eldoret North legislator. Muteshi told the courts this week that the legislator is feared and getting information has not been easy. The two parties will appear at the Milimani court for full hearings on April 25th and 26th. Catherine Omwando, KTN Prime.
Well, that's it from me tonight. I'm Anki Guta. Back to Eric and Joy with more news.
The Media Council of Kenya has urged the media to refrain from airing content inappropriate for family viewing during prime time. Speaking during a visit to the Standard Group Center, the council chairman, Dr. Levi Obonyo, warned that such conduct would attract penalties from the media regulation body.
He, however, added that while such penalties are meant to be punitive, the media should strive to regulate itself, as it's in the best interest of journalism that media does not lose its voice.
In anticipation of World Press Freedom Day to be celebrated in May, members of the Media Council visited the Standard Group Center, where they met with top-level management to discuss issues surrounding media freedom. During the discussions, the Media Council of Kenya urged the media to uphold content appropriate for family viewing.
And we want to appeal to media houses, and we know that are out there that are violating this provision, to be very careful in terms of the content that they broadcast, and particularly when the wider public is viewing. Because it's important that we protect the cultural views of this country, and the content that is being broadcast should be appropriate for the specific audiences that we are dealing with.
We also discuss the issue of appropriateness of certain contents during prime time, given sensitivity of family issues. And we agreed, all of us as media houses have a responsibility to ensure that we churn out content that is appropriate to the families during prime time.
The Media Council has already summoned a section of media houses which have registered complaints over their content and programming. However, the council warns that the penalties levelled against media houses are only meant as a deterrent and not to cripple or gag the industry.
Our target is not to strangle the media. Our target is not to see that media does not have space to operate. And so we think that penalties that are preferred against media houses should not be punitive. I mean, exceedingly punitive to the extent that instills fear amongst journalists, but sufficient to deter repeat of inappropriate action, but still enabling the media houses to be able to express themselves freely.
The council further urged the gutter press to regularize operations and operate above board alongside other publications. Other issues arising such as regulation of social media, new challenges facing journalists and opportunities open to them will be discussed at a 3-day convention for journalists that will see stakeholders from across the continent assemble in Kenya.
How do we ensure that this profession is guided as a noble profession that is given the responsibility of informing and educating the people? So those are very fundamental topical issues that we need to discuss during the convention. It is the first journalist convention in this country, and we are taking it with a lot of pride.
Journalists across the country have been urged to enter their work for the Media Council Awards. World Press Freedom Day will be marked on the 3rd of May. Wilkison Abwa, KTN Prime.
Now, the Kenya Meteorological Department gave a warning early this month on areas expected to receive enhanced rainfall, resulting to disasters such as flooding and mudslides. Keyo and Elgeyo Marakwet regions were among the regions named.
One village in Elgeyo Marakwet County is sitting on a time bomb with cracks that have been expanding for the last 3 months now, posing a mudslide threat to 60 families in an in-sub location. Now, here is more on the story of a people reluctant to move as disaster awaits.
The escarpments of Elgeyo Marakwet County can be termed as beautiful if seen from afar, but a closer peek on the ground reveals an ugly truth that residents here are yet to come to terms with. Huge cracks developing day by day. A few meters from these cracks are residential houses. The residents here are aware of the risk it poses. It, however, has become a routine. In 2010 and 2011, smaller cracks in the region caused a mudslide, but with no recorded casualties. Keyo District Commissioner Mohamed Abbas says the current cracks have caught their attention.
We are appealing to people of Anin sublocation to move to safer ground, since the area currently have developed huge cracks which will trigger a landslide.
But the response of the residents on the ground is different.
Hiyo wakati ilianza huko ndio wakatuambia mtoke. Sasa mpaka askari walikuwa epi walikuwa wakuja kutufukuza. Sasa mimi nikaambia kuna venye mimi nitaenda.
Sasa haitawezekana kwa maana sina penye nitaenda. Kwa maana mzazi amenipea hii shamba mpaka ameniandikia kila kitu. So nitawachia tu Mungu chochote iko mbele.
Bridget Kemboi, a mother of 5, has more than one reason not to move. Her child was buried here 6 years ago. She goes about her business. She says unless the cracks in the ground open up her child's grave and allow her to go with it, she will not move. The rainy season is here, and the land here usually shifts when the rains begin.
This time around, the Meteorology Department have forecast that the area will be receiving normal or above normal rains.
This land sank last year after it developed cracks. The family that was living here moved. Others are still waiting. And as the days go by, Siroch village sits on a time bomb, one that will be determined by either the government deciding to relocate its people or the heavens to open up and the grounds respond. Marcy Kandia reporting for KTN in Siroch village, Elgeyo Marakwet County.
Well, there's a scary sight there when you see such deep gullies
They're
developing.
expanding by
And
the
they're
day.
expanding. Would you move?
Well, I would say being in the situation those people are in, dependent on subsistence farming, it would be very difficult. But most definitely, had a place to go, I'd definitely move. Moving on, there was tension in Njoro after more than 700 families living in Tergat Forest were forcefully removed during a joint operation by the administration, police and Kenya Forestry Service officers.
The eviction is likely to push more families into IDP camps, as the evictees say they have no other home to turn to.
People living at this forest, Tergat, part of the larger Mao Conservancy project, claim they own the land and should not have been evicted.
Ile kitu alisababisha hii msitu wa Mauche ishi ni watu walitoka wapi? Tinet na serikali alileta hapa. Hao kuja peke yao.
Mwaka hii wote walikuwa wapi? Wewe wadhili. Hebu umejiuliza walikuwa wapi? Mbona wanajenga kambi kwa siku 7 tu? Na hakuna evictions imefanywa. Mass evictions mungesikia.
Kufika jana kwa DC tena, DC anatuambia hapana. Nenda mpoma hiyo manyumba, hata alikataa tu kuingia. Sasa akasema hiyo nyumba iende ifomolewe mpaki wale mlikuwa huko, kwa maana nyinyi mliita watu pale kutoka huko.
They claim the local administration did not give them notice to vacate the forest land, but instead claim that Kenya Forest Service officers demolished the houses, burning some structures, and in the process injuring some people.
Nyumba mingi.
Mnyaine hivi. If there is anything that was done that was contrary to what you have seen yourselves, then we shall investigate.
The evicted people say they have nowhere to go to and that such evictions will only enhance poverty.
Serikali ya miaka mingi amegeuka kuwa shida ya mwananchi. Tunauliza serikali kwa hii maneno imefanyika hapa. Manyumba zimechomwa, mahindi hakuna, msaada hakuna.
But for these families, life continues to be a struggle. Zipora Karani, KTN, reporting from the county of Nakuru.
Just a reminder of a big question. Do you think the two principals will consult and agree on the election date?
We'd love to know what you think. Send us your yes or no answer plus a brief comment to the number 8040. We'll give you the poll results at the end of this live newscast. You're watching KTN Prime. Stay right here. As just ahead.
Well, just ahead, news making headlines across the counties soon to come your way.
The Mombasa Polytechnic University College invites applications from suitably qualified candidates for master's, degree, diploma and certificate programs due to start on 7th May 2012. For application details, visit our website. The Mombasa Polytechnic University College, a center of excellence.
From 31st March to 3rd of April, come see how the pros do it as we proudly present the 2011 Barclays Kenya Open at the prestigious Muthaiga Golf Club. Tickets available at all Nairobi golf clubs, Kenya Golf Union, Muthaiga Golf Club from 25th March and at the gate from 30th March. And remember, always putt online and bank online because they both save time. And we'll see you at the Barclays Kenya Open 2011.
Estate and Housing Finance Academy Awards will discover and celebrate excellence in real estate and housing finance in Africa. Join us for a networking and business-to-business cocktail on the 29th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. A full-day conference on 30th March featuring local and international speakers from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And later, an awards gala dinner from 7 p.m. to midnight. Register now to be a part of these great events. For inquiries, call Lydia on +254 707 922 445 or visit www.rfacademy.org. Nominations deadline for the awards has been extended to 17th March 2012. For sponsorship, participation and registration, visit www.rfacademy.org or email info@rfacademy.org for more details. RF Academy Awards 2012, Discovering and Celebrating Excellence, 29th to 30th March 2012 in Nairobi, Kenya.
Natural beer, sugar-free, truly Kenyan. Escape to freedom. Here life is full of flavor. Where you can enjoy good health and some of the best food found anywhere.
You belong to me. And I belong to you.
Welcome to Pwani Life.
Starting out, starting small, dreaming big, watching you grow. Long nights whisper low, hearing your voice, it's always close. Time passing, years shaping dust to stone.
We cannot stop time
Look how you grow.
or slow it down, but we can make the most of what we have. CBA, time for more.
2,500 kilometers, 5 pickups, 1 ton. Don't miss the Nissan Challenge every day from next Monday at 8:30 p.m. right here on KTN. The Nissan Challenge. Get ready for the ride of your life.
Natural beer, sugar-free, truly Kenyan.
Welcome back. You're watching KTN Prime.
Moving on to more news from across the country. A fire that destroyed thousands of hectares of indigenous forest in the Mount Kenya forest and the Aberdare National Park is yet to be contained. The fire has now been raging for 11 days running with concerted efforts by stakeholders and neighboring communities to put it out.
According to the Kenya Wildlife Service Deputy Director in charge of mountain conservation, Robert Njue, the fire on the Chogoria side is spreading faster and proving hard to contain despite the efforts put in place. The fire has already raised bamboo trees valued at billions of shillings in Chuka and Chogoria destroyed water catchment areas, displaced and killed wildlife.
Private helicopters have been hired to help contain the fire. However, questions are being raised as to why the KWS and KFS did not contain the fire before it spread to unmanageable levels.
In other news, businesses in Eldoret town were at a standstill today as workers of a local supermarket downed their tools in protest against alleged harassment by their supervisor.
In Meru, preparations are underway for the International Wild Water Day to be marked on Thursday. These and more stories in our local wrap.
Lands Minister James Orengo has confirmed that MPs will soon have access to the land bill to scrutinize it before it's tabled in Parliament. Orengo says that the crucial bill will be brought to the floor of the House in 3 weeks' time. The bill, which is expected to solve the current land issues in the country, has been in the public domain since it was handed over to the Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee in May 2010.
Within 20 days, that will give us 16 days for the bills now to be debated, go through the 3 stages, and also get presidential assent or refusal to assent by His Excellency the President.
Elsewhere, workers at the Eldomat supermarket in Eldoret town took to the streets demanding that their grievances be addressed. The employees of the local supermarket claim that their supervisor has been harassing them. Josephat Ojwok of the Kenya Union of Commercial Food and Allied Workers said that although complaints had been forwarded, they were yet to be addressed. Their protests have allegedly resulted to the sacking of 4 employees.
They work more hours, they're not being compensated in terms of overtime. There is no leave granted to them, there are no off duties, and arbitrary sackings.
In Muranga, shareholders of Ngimo Farm Company are accusing their board of directors of plotting to sell land reportedly reserved for public utility. The farmers claim that a board member has been steering the illegal sale of the 30-acre land designated as a water catchment area. And finally, in Meru, preparations are underway for the International Water Day, which will be marked worldwide on Thursday. Water Minister Charity Ngilu is expected to grace the event alongside other dignitaries and stakeholders in the water sector and non-governmental organizations. Asha Mwilu, KTN Prime.
Thanks a lot, Asha. Now joining us is James Karani, who is about to give us business. Key interest is about innovation in East Africa.
Well, indeed, a very good evening to you, Joy Doreen, and of course, Eric Latif. And as you've said, innovation in the East African market proves very important. And Eric, we were just discussing with you before we came on to this segment, the fact that, our applications such as M-Pesa have proved that the region is able to leapfrog into, the technological sector.
Indeed.
So they're talking about replicating this in other industries, not just the technological sector.
Because more people are only focusing on the mobile sector and ICT.
Exactly. So they're being asked, when it comes to agriculture, can we involve more technology?
Right.
How can we leapfrog into the development age, as opposed to, mark timing, moving slowly by slowly? So we'll be talking about that when we come back after the break.
What we are more interested in as a committee is to ensure that those divergent views don't lead to a disruption of the process, don't lead to such conflict that the entire process itself is jeopardized. So that's what we're interested in doing. When it comes to interpretation, the final say is with the court.
Polycid Classic nets are intelligently formulated, with the insecticide incorporated into the fiber of the net, allowing it to repel and kill mosquitoes for up to 5 years.
You have an office?
Yes.
And you have never been inside it?
Dude, it's called a virtual office. You don't have to see it.
And then he goes and sells this funny stuff to some funny jamas. And you found this out by following him? It was for the full girl with the dragon sticker. Anyway, so what are we gonna do about this?
Oh, dem wako na kapsanga.
Who, Angie?
Angie ni dem wako.
Well, sort of, kinda. In a way. By the way, I don't know what she wants.
If Charles is serious, he'll make a move.
Providing you and your loved ones a peaceful night's sleep. The world's first World Health Organization fully recommended mosquito nets.
From 31st March to 3rd of April, come see how the pros do it as we proudly present the 2011 Barclays Kenya Open at the prestigious Muthaiga Golf Club. Tickets available at all Nairobi golf clubs, Kenya Golf Union, Muthaiga Golf Club from 25th March and at the gate from 30th March. And remember, always putt online and bank online because they both save time. And we'll see you at the Barclays Kenya Open 2011.
Amazing dentist tidbits with new Sensodyne Rapid Action. Get instant and long-lasting relief from tooth sensitivity with Sensodyne Rapid Action toothpaste. For instant relief, gently massage a small amount of Sensodyne Rapid Action with a clean index finger onto the base of the sensitive tooth for 60 seconds. For long-lasting effect, brush your teeth twice a day with Sensodyne Rapid Action.
Using Sensodyne Rapid Action on a continuous basis helps prevent sensitivity in long term. It's an everyday toothpaste with a bit of an oomph.
Escape to freedom. Indulge in fragrance. This is a life full of flavor. Serving up some of the best food found anywhere.
You belong to me, and I belong to you.
Welcome to Pwani Life.
KTN Business Today, in association with CBA.
We can make the most of what we have. CBA, time for more.
Well, indeed, a very good evening to you and welcome to KTN Business Today on this Tuesday, the 20th day of March 2012. I'm James Karani. Now, if you've ever had a problem understanding the budget process, you're not alone. Many MPs also do not understand this process, and in just a while, we'll be telling you about a training that's been organized to train them to train Kenyans. So stay tuned for that. But first of all, the Nairobi Securities Exchange plans to list a 40% stake on the bourse in 2014. This through a demutualization process that will see it turn into a public company. The announcement comes on the back of the appointment of 4 independent directors to its board. KTN's Bonnie Tunya looks at the NSC to-do list ahead of the 2014 listing.
In a raft of changes to prepare the Securities Exchange for the long-awaited demutualization process, as well as new products it has lined up, the NSC has appointed Has Consult Property Development Manager Farhana Hassan Ali, the Jamii Bora Bank Chief Executive Samuel Kimani, Uchumi Chief Executive Officer Jonathan Siano, Lab Trust Managing Trustee Hosea Kili, Kingdom Securities CEO Geoffrey Odundo, and FIDA Investment Bank CEO Bob Karina as directors, with Eddie Njoroge and Winnie Nyamute retaining their positions. The additional directors are expected to facilitate the rolling out of new products that include real estate investment trust and the small and medium enterprise segment. Additionally, they will be key in setting up a commodities market, a feature that the market is currently toying with to keep itself up to mark with developed markets. Demutualization will see NSC members hold an 80% stake and a further future reduction to 40%, with the government and investor compensation fund being allocated 10% each. This move is expected to trim stockbrokers' influence in the NSC management that currently owns 22% of the bourse. The NSC has for the last 5 years talked of demutualization, with several deadlines missed as it seeks to craft legislations and frameworks to support it. Bonnie Tunya for KTN Business Today.
Thank you very much, KTN's Bonnie Tunya there reporting. Now, let's go to a story that we'd hinted earlier on, and innovation is a key catalyst to businesses in the East African region. This is according to a report released by the East African Business Summit, which also notes that players should leverage on ICT to overcome challenges. KTN's Philip Keitan has that report.
According to the report, government should cultivate the creation of public-private partnership to improve on the well-being of regional citizens. Business leaders at the summit promised to take leading roles in lobbying for the partnerships that will, among other things, increase regional electricity generation to 5,000 megawatts.
Africa is going to have a GDP of 3 trillion in 2020. Kenya can actually have 10% of that 3 trillion because we have started the journey towards changing this country from an agricultural-based economy to a service-based economy.
Now, for governments to spend more, it is important that the private sector produces more. And governments fund the activities in 3 principal ways. 1, they can print money. And you can ask Uncle Bob in Zimbabwe what happened when he printed money. 2, they can borrow. We can talk to our friends, the Greeks, about what happened when you borrow.
The 5 partner states in EAC have over the years crafted means of ensuring robust business environment between the countries. This was further boosted by the coming into place of the East African Common Market Protocol in 2010, with the overall goal of integrating the 5 markets. However, Tanzania and Kenya have been constantly put on the spot for turning a blind eye on non-tariff barriers, costing other economies billions of shillings.
All of us, in the business community, in the private sector, in government, in the civil society, all of us have to invest in capacity for innovation.
With an estimated market of 130 million people, the Business Summit is looking at growing this to the whole of Africa before venturing into other continents. Philip Keitan, KTN Business Today.
Well, every year, thousands of Kenyans try to grapple with what exactly the budget process means and some of the implications of what is announced. As I told you earlier, you're not alone, because now a 5-month training course has been organized for parliamentary staff to give them an understanding of budget-making procedures in the country. In turn, the staff will be required to pass this acquired knowledge to MPs to sharpen their skills in debating the budget in future. KTN's Zawadi Mudibo with the full details.
Tasked with the crucial role of legislation, Parliament in the course of its duty is also required to deliberate on other areas such as economics. This has always not been easy, with MPs on admission into passing laws without understanding the technicalities involved.
I remember myself as far back as when I was in the 7th Parliament. And all we could do was just to look at the estimates and pass these parliamentary budgets.
The macro model is going to strengthen the ability of Parliamentary Budget Office to provide a more detailed analysis of budgets, including on revenue and spending estimates.
Remarks also shared by the chair of the Parliamentary Budget Committee, Elias Mbao, who further revealed the members will have no excuse for giving misleading technical information because the Budget Office will have adequate data and trained staff in economics and econometrics.
We want to be able to know what are the variables that require, variables in terms of taxes that require to be changed by what amount, so that when you change that small amount, you can get a revenue equivalent of what you want.
And since MPs have been vocal on not allowing their electorate overtaxed, the training will also help them understand how to undertake redistribution, such as know-how and by what margins to zero rate certain essential goods so as to ensure equitable, rational and fair allocation of the country's resources. Zawadi Mdibo, KTN Business Today.
Well, indeed, time for us to take today's corporate briefs. Let's begin with news from NEMA. And the National Environment Management Authority has lifted an order for closure for cement maker Athi River Mining Kaloleni factory. According to Athi River Mining officials, the authority declined the decision after it had presented an action plan to comply with concerns that were raised. Closure of the plant was occasioned by the cement maker's failure to tarmac a road leading to it. Among other points raised by the authority, the European Union, that's our second story in terms of the corporate briefs. Let's take a look at that story from the EU. And the EU and the Danish government have donated 1 billion shillings for the rehabilitation of 5 water towers in the country. Through the Community Development Trust, the fund targets rehabilitation of Mount Kenya alongside Aberdares, Mau, Cherangani and Mount Elgon. Basically, this is what they will be doing with those funds. According to Mr. Daniel Plas, who is the head of Social and Environment section of the EU, the money will be used for promotion of socio-economic activities for communities bordering the forest buffer zones. And finally, let's take a look at the final corporate brief today. And that's where we went. The EU donating those billions of shillings to environment management. Let's take a look at the financial markets review now. And the Kenyan shilling, for the first time in quite a number of days, did slip, but only marginally. This following the interbank trading that went ahead in the banking sector. Lots of the dollar demand happening today, and this is where we ended. So losing basically just a few cents and settling at 82 shillings and 53 cents. In terms of the selling price, also owing to this interbank demand, this is where it ended at 82 shillings and 73 cents. In terms of the pound sterling, always following the trend that's set by the dollar, and this is where it ended 130 shillings and 96 cents. As I've said, also owing to this interbank demand, and also 131 shillings and 31 cents, the selling price. Finally, the euro, 109 shillings and 21 cents, pretty much where we left it yesterday. And finally, the selling price at 109 shillings and 50 cents. Now, just before we leave the screen, don't be too worried in terms of the Kenyan shilling being a bit weaker vis-a-vis the US dollar. This is because tomorrow you might see the Kenyan shilling becoming a bit stronger. We'll have many more dollars in the markets if the assumption by most analysts, the fact that this extra dollars by the foreign investors in the government treasury bill that was released and oversubscribed are going to be poured into the market. So that might prop up the Kenyan shilling once we have this increase in the dollar demand. Those are the figures from today. Let's finalize with a look at the figures from the Nairobi Securities Exchange on this Tuesday.